Hi everyone, Anna Abademarco here with Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. I'm fortunate to have Bill Dare with me here today from Spotlight Home Inspections. He's the owner-operator and we've been using his services for many years now, right? It's been about 5 or 6 plus years.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's been great. And so a lot of our clients know the importance of using a pre-inspection, why they should have pre-inspections. Most of my listings, as many of you know, they are pre-inspected before they hit the market. We do that for a lot of reasons. But with that, there's always a lot of questions that we get that wonder if that's really the best thing for the seller. So I invited Bill here today to help with some of those myths and to give you the facts about those questions. So one of them is a lot of people think that they'll need to fix the problems with the house in the pre-inspection report before they can sell the home. So what do you think about that?
Most of the time we're going to recommend that they not fix everything. There may be some things that they would want to take care of, particularly safety items. Anything that's safety related, we want them to address because certainly we don't want any hazards in the house. But for the most part, a better attitude is to approach that from a disclosure standpoint. So once you have that list of things that we've identified as potential issues with the house, you're going to disclose them to the new buyer. Many times the new buyer may have a different plan for the house than you have currently anyway. So the changes that they would make may overwrite anything that you just spent money to fix. So more often than not, the list of things to fix is fairly short. It becomes more of a disclosure document to us.
Yeah, that's certainly been my experience. In fact, with our clients, before it goes on market, sellers have to fill out that lengthy seller's disclosure. And so we attach the home inspection report to that. And Jennifer, our director of operations on my team, she will meet with our sellers to go over that entire report. And she'll help them make recommendations. You know, this is really an issue for a lot of buyers. In your area, maybe you have a use and occupancy certificate requirement. She'll go over that list of what those requirements are in that township. So it really helps the seller to get a handle and be proactive. So I definitely think that's a great idea. So the second myth, buyers will be put off, by the information in the report. What do you think about that?
Well, they're going to find it out anyway.
Yeah.
So the information is going to be disclosed. I'd say that the home inspection industry as a whole is a fairly well organized business. Most home inspectors do a really great job, and they're going to find what we would find on a pre-listing inspection. So the information is going to be available to that buyer. It's much more palatable to them if that information is in before they even put the offer in. They know the house pretty well. So we're going to give you the opportunity to disclose that information, get that on the table. You can adjust the price accordingly if necessary. You can make whatever adaptations you need to make. But certainly the timing of that information is much more operable when it's before the house is listed on the market, as opposed to 4 weeks before closing. Then the buyer has unrealistic expectations about what that's going to be. So they generally are attempting to renegotiate the sale price basically with the home inspection. So the sooner we can have that information in front of everyone and that they can act on that information, the better off we're going to be. It's the information is going to be there one way or the other.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that one. In fact, while I don't have my stats for 2018, I can say that with all the listings that I did last year in 2017, so probably about 50 listings last year, more than 50% of the buyers actually, because the report was available, they waived inspections, right? So we're in a seller's market, buyers want to put their best foot forward, but certainly no one's going to encourage them or suggest to waive inspections when there's no factual information provided. But with the pre-inspection, it certainly helps us receive offers from buyers who are like, you know what, I probably would have used Spotlight anyway. You know, my agent suggested them, and so here they see that as real value because the information is there for them to present before they complete their offer. So the third myth, the buyers will hire their own inspector who will find a new list.
That's always possible. Generally speaking, we like to say that a home inspection is designed to find large items, big problems with a property. Unfortunately, a lot of the time they get buried in the minutia of the little things. And certainly no one expects the house to be perfect. It's a used house. We want to make sure that there's no glaring problems structurally or health and safety, things like that. So those are the big things that we're looking for. Generally speaking, they're going to be on the report. It's always possible that another inspector interprets something differently or sees something in a different way. But at that point, we've established a relationship with that seller, and we're going to have the conversation with that other inspector, with the buyer. We're going to walk them through that process of, this is why we reported it the way we did, or we didn't report it, and this is why we want you to understand that maybe he saw it a different way, and I want you to understand the way that we're looking at it. And generally speaking, that process is a big part of why we're as busy as we are, because we are very much attuned to service after the inspection, because anybody can walk through the house and give you a list, but that whole follow-up process that I'm involved in personally, so all my inspectors, all my guys, I'm the guy that follows up behind them to make sure that if there's a question or a problem or anything, that I'm the guy. And if we need to, we'll come out and we'll walk through it with the buyer and explain to them and look at it together. And we don't walk on water. We've made mistakes in the past, and if we did, we'll own up to it and we'll discuss what the next steps are.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that point as well. In fact, I will say you are certainly one of my best negotiation tools that I have when it comes to inspections. While I would absolutely say, without having the stats in front of me, that this year it's definitely more than 50% of the buyers who are waiving inspections, but you know, there's still going to be that other 30+%, maybe 40%, I doubt even that many, that do their own inspection. And there have been on occasion where they had more things that they found, or justified or unjustified, let's just say, that their opinion of what it was, and being able to forward that reply to you and say, hey, what do you think? You know, give your feedback. And oh my gosh, does he give feedback? I mean, you've got highlighted points, you know, per codes and per requirements, and why you justify what it is you're saying. There is nothing more valuable as a realtor. My job is to sell a house. I can't tell you what the true condition of your HVAC is or whatever it may be, but having that professional feedback that I can share with the agent to continue that negotiation, absolutely priceless. So definitely great. So the fourth myth, the information in the report will increase my exposure.
Well, nothing could be further from the truth, Anna. We know that one of the most litigious things in real estate is that seller's disclosure. So the buyer buys the house, they move in, something goes wrong that maybe nobody ever could have predicted, because things break in houses and things go wrong. But what you can refer back to is my report. We take on a significant amount of that liability because that's our job, to inspect and disclose what we find. And honestly, the inspection that we do for a seller is the same inspection that we do for a buyer. There's no difference. We don't pull any punches. If it's broke, it's broken. If it's good, it's good. And that's just the way we're going to report it. So when the person looks at that report, the buyer looks at that report, it doesn't seem sugar-coated to them because it's very factual, because it doesn't pay us to sugarcoat it, get them in a deal, and then find out that it's going to unravel because there was information that they didn't know about. But the exposure part is far less exposure for most sellers, because they're going to be able to refer back. We went above and beyond the call of duty. We were not required to hire our own inspector and have this inspected and give you that information, but we did, and here's that information. So we're referring back to that, and I'll take on that liability, and we'll go forward with that, because let's face it, they're not going to have a way to go back to the seller to say that your inspector didn't. They're going to come back to me and say you didn't.
Yeah, that added protection is just so incredibly valuable. So the last myth, pre-listing inspections are expensive. So. Nothing,
from our experience, and we do a lot of these for you, and we do some for other groups, and it's a tool that's becoming more popular. And in my humble opinion, there's no better money spent on this process of selling your house than to get this information out there and get it out there fast. As I already stated, the seller has a certain opinion of their house, and the buyer has a different opinion, and few times in life are things further apart than that. And so we don't want the seller to have too lofty of opinion, so the report has the ability to kind of make it realistic. And we don't want the buyer to expect things that are unrealistic and expect a return on investment, for example, on their inspection report. And some of them look at it that way.
Yeah.
If they spend $500 on an inspection, they want $1,500 back on the house somehow.
Yes.
So we don't want to go that route, but we definitely want to have the value in information. And somebody once said that information is power,
Yeah.
and nothing is further from the truth. And we provide that information and we provide that power. We either provide it for the buyer or we provide it for the seller, and it's a whole lot easier to provide it for the seller.
Absolutely. And when you think about the cost of an inspection report versus the cost of being under contract, your buyer is now doing their own inspection, you have not done yours, so you have no information. And then during that contingency period, which generally speaking, a buyer is going to ask for 10 to 12, maybe 14 days to complete their inspections. They send a reply and the items that they want corrected. You as the seller have 5 days to respond. How capable are you going to be to have your plumber, your electrician, whoever it may be, to come out and justify the credit that the buyer is asking or the repair that they want? So for me, when I go on a listing appointment, generally speaking, we're about 2 weeks out before the home's even going to hit market, right? So in that time, when we have our photographer coming, doing videography, promoting the coming soon, that's the perfect time to also have your company come do the pre-inspection. Gives us plenty of time to review it. And you know what? You have a contractor that you already know that you want to get him in and get his opinion and get a proposal for it. Maybe do the work, maybe not, but know what the cost of it involved is certainly very, very helpful. When you compare the cost of an inspection, knowing and then doing the work on your timeline versus being under contract and being at the mercy of what another party is telling you, it's easily going to cost you considerably more by being at the mercy than having the information yourself. So I think that's awesome, great information, and I really appreciate you taking the time. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great tool. Again, we offer the buyer the opportunity to walk through this report with us. So we'll send an inspector for half the fee. So if you do a pre-listing inspection with us and you have a prospective buyer and that buyer has questions, they can always call and ask me those questions and I'll walk them through the report verbally, no charge, no problem. However, I think it really is helpful for a buyer to walk through a property with an inspector. So for half the price of the inspection fee, we'll send an inspector, they'll walk through the property, we're not re-inspecting it, but we're gonna go through the report and explain to them what we saw. We'll show them how things operate, how to turn the water off, how to change the filter in the heater, and things like that we would do on a normal inspection, because I think that's invaluable for a buyer, because I certainly don't want to cut the buyer out of the information loop.
Right.
I want to include them in that. So that's the last piece of this puzzle, is to plug in that component where if the buyer so desires, we'll walk them through the report and walk them through the house. So I think it's helpful.
Education is key for sure. Knowing that information, having all of your ducks in a row, and being proactive is certainly the way to go. In this industry, you have salespeople and you have advisors, and that's basically, to me, what it comes down to. Do you want advice? Do you want to be educated and walk through the process, or do you want to feel like it's some kind of bait and switch and do it now, buy now, and that aggressive approach, which doesn't work for me, and it's also why I enjoy working with you. So thanks so much.
Same here.